I was given another aquarium. Well, you know what that means. Time for a new planted nano setup. This time I'm going to use all natural ingredients I gathered myself.
Is it legal to steal sand from a beach?
Maybe not.
Without spending money. I go down to this beach near my place quite often. This time I decided to bring along a bucket to gather sand for my substrate.
Nice.
I did it.
And then we go counterclockwise.
This should do.
This isn't a rock.
I didn't like that sand after all.
I don't think it's a rock.
This sand is much better. I wanted a fairly consistent fine-grained sand. Everything was thoroughly rinsed until the water ran clean. I don't have a solid plan, but I decided I'm going to experiment a little more this time and add in a dirted layer under the sand. I sifted out the large chunks that we don't want fouling the water. I prefer a simple black background, and this USB LED ring light worked perfectly here. Using the sand first, a border was made around the edge so the soil layer won't be visible. Everything was prepared ahead of time, being rinsed, boiled, and soaked before the making of the video. I originally did the substrate first, then added the driftwood. However, this was actually slightly changed in a couple days after the log had floated up. I had restarted the whole thing, deciding to put the log in first, bordered by sand, and a small soil strip around it. The soil isn't needed beneath the wood. I didn't film the redo and replanting, as it was the same as these clips that you're about to watch. I don't have any video of when I found the piece of weathered driftwood, but it was found during one of my previous trips to the same beach, and it fit perfectly. I gathered up a variety of plant clippings from my community tank to start here. There isn't much, but I'll add more later too. I actually don't have much of a plan. I just liked the way that the log looked sitting like that, and I'm just gonna plant around it. As I said, I don't have a plan. I want to be clear that I'm no expert at this. I'm just trying to place things where I feel they naturally fit together. While I, of course, am going to attempt to make something pleasing to look at, I'm not trying to make a beautifully designed aquascape setup. Just something beautiful in its own way. And this is basically it. Well, still before the redo actually, but you get the idea. I think it turned out really well. and I really like how the wood sticking out of the surface resembles the dead trees you would find standing in many of the flooded ponds found locally. I know the plants are kind of sparse here, but again, I will be adding more as I come across them, and there's going to be a lot of them growing in as well. And since I also want this to be a no-filter tank, water lettuce will also be a nice addition. Day 2. Time to test the water for the first time. I'm not going to show it every time, but as this is my first experiment with no filter and a soil base, water testing will be done every day for the first week, and gradually less each week after that. Although there was no change in water parameters compared to the treated tap water that was used to fill the tank, a 75% water change was done after the testing anyway. And day 3 is when I had to start all over again. This time around, an Amazon sword that I'm going to try to save was added in the back corner, along with some semi-goldfish chewed stem plant clippings given to me by the local pet store since it was all they had left at the time. Then I just tried to let it sit for a while. I'm glad you enjoy your water bowl, Cat. I made it very nice just for you. It's a funny looking fishy. What are you doing, Nibbles? That's not your cave. Over the next 2 weeks, nothing much happened. Just test the water, change some out, repeat. Though I didn't show, I did also swish a dirty filter sponge around in the water to help get some of that good bacteria in there faster too. Water parameters were becoming a lot more stable, and it was at this time that I decided to add in some water from the same lake I acquired the sand and log from, along with the little microorganisms that call that water home. Eventually, I think I would like to add some orange neocaridina shrimps into the setup, as I've had a handful of them appear in my blue shrimp tank. However, since this is an experimental tank and still not fully cycled, I don't want to risk my orange shrimps. So these little brown ones that were also culled out of my blue tank will make a good little crew to venture forth into unknown lands. Waters. Unknown waters. I drip acclimated them using a syringe, then added them in. Since I added some shrimps here, I decided to toss in this tiny little air pump I also got for free to help oxygenate the water and create a teeny bit of movement. Plants are already establishing well and showing some new growth, especially the fast-growing stem plants. The driftwood has had a bit of that white fuzz growing and is already starting to clear up a bit. And I've even found some microorganisms growing. A good sign for the health of this little ecosystem that I've started, and they could make a nice snack if a little fish is ever added. What are some suggestions for an inhabitant that you would recommend for this little 5-gallon? Leave it down in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe if you'd like to see future updates on my little all-natural no-filter ecosystem. I think it's kind of funny, in a way. This new aquarium resembles what I was trying to make in my very first planted tank, but with just a bit more knowledge. It's been about 2 weeks since completely filling the tank, and although it's not complete, this is going to be the end of this video. For the most part, I'm just going to let it sit for a while. It's not really anything fun to watch. I do have plans on adding more plants as I can get them, so I will update in a future video about any changes and growth that does happen. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. What? What, Nibby? Are you waiting for cuddles? Psst, psst, psst. Are you waiting for cuddles? Good girl.